So my name is Monica Williams. I am 44 years old. I am a wife, a mom, a grandmom, a new grandmom. I am a sister, I am an aunt, and I am a friend. I was born and raised in Baltimore. We grew up in East Baltimore. I moved around a lot to all parts of the city. It wasn't like a particular place where I stayed for a long time, but I lived in Baltimore my entire life up until the age of 34. Places where I lived in Baltimore was Holbrook Street. We moved there when I was around, I want to say maybe 11 or 12 years old. And it was so memorable for me because I had my first 13th birthday party at that home. And I made a lot of friends there. And our neighbors, the whole neighborhood was like family. Particularly my next door neighbors. We became family, and to this day, I still keep in touch with them. Well, the neighborhoods that we lived in were pretty decent neighborhoods. They were always inner city, but they were pretty decent neighborhoods. They were row homes, always a row home. But my mom always tried to find homes that she could afford, number one. But the homes were decent neighborhoods. We just never stayed long. We just always moved around a lot, but we did live in pretty decent row homes. My elementary school that I went to was Johnson Square Elementary. I went to Dunbar Middle, and I went to Emerson High School. There were plenty of struggles. Plenty of struggles. But the one thing that we had growing up was the community. You know, during my time, I was born in 72, so late 70s, early 80s, late 70s, 80s, and early 90s. We had each other as a community. We all came together. We were definitely a community. Like, we looked out for one another. We was there for one another. Your neighbors, if your mom had something to do, your neighbors kept watch over you. They were able to correct you and discipline you. So that was like the best part of me growing up and living in the areas and environments that I lived in. The struggles was within my home, my personal home. My mom, she was young. She was a young mom, and she wasn't, I'm not going to say wasn't ready to have children, but I don't think she was ready to parent. And because of that, she would be gone a lot. She loved partying, loved going out, loved hanging out on the weekends, which left me home with my younger brother and two sisters. So that was like a real struggle. And then my mom, at some point, I think I was around maybe 13, I discovered at that time, my mom was using drugs. And so that became a struggle for us. There were times when, and it wasn't all the time, but the times when we had to go through not having food or just trying to figure out, what we was going to eat and where was my. So like I was saying, it was very hard when my mom would not be home. There was times where she would be gone for the entire weekend, and we literally did not have food to eat. So just trying to figure out what we was going to eat, how I was going to feed myself and my siblings, how I could call and let my aunt know that we were home alone and we were hungry without getting my mom in trouble. Like, that was very challenging for me because I had to make tough choices at such a very young age. But I think that those were like the most difficult challenges and struggles for me during that time. It's just being home, taking care of my siblings, not knowing where my mom was, not hearing from her sometimes for the entire weekend, and just trying to figure out what we was going to eat. That was very hard on a 9, 10, year old little girl. It appeared to be common in my neighborhood. Of course, you never know what other people are doing in their home and how other people are living, but it just did not appear to be that way. I had a couple friends, I would go to their home, and their home was nothing like my home. Some homes had, you know, both mom and dad in the home, and there were times when I was there during dinner time, and just seeing how everyone was interacting, it was definitely different. The one thing that we did have though, when my mom was home, my mom definitely could cook. She would prepare, you know, good meals for us, and we all sit at the table and ate as a family. That was just a rule in our home. We had to eat as a family. I didn't eat at 5, my mom ate at 6, or she ate upstairs, we ate downstairs. No, we all sit at the table to have dinner. So I saw that in a lot of families. But again, you never know what people are going through and what they was experiencing behind closed doors. Well, my mom was a high school dropout. She actually dropped out in the 12th grade. She was pregnant with me, and to my knowledge, she never returned back to school. My mom did not work. Maybe at some point in her life she did, but from my remembrance, she never had a job. My mom was on social service, and my dad, I think he dropped out, I want to say maybe 8th, 9th grade. And my dad worked his entire life, but he definitely did not have, he didn't have too much education. My dad was born in Baltimore, but my mom was born in Virginia, and she moved to Baltimore, I think when she was probably around, quote unquote, maybe 4 or 5 years old. But both of my parents are deceased now. My mom died of HIV, and my dad died of a stroke. They were both pretty young. My mom was 42, and my dad was 56 when he died. I had to leave Baltimore. Baltimore was starting to really go downhill because Baltimore was not like Baltimore used to be. Like again, when I was growing up, the community was definitely the community. We all had each other. We could depend on each other. We did community things. Families were families. Everybody stuck together. We could trust one another. We could be there for one another. And that changed over the years. I'll say maybe like, I guess maybe early 2000s is when I just started seeing a shift, and things was just not like it used to be, and Baltimore was just getting worse and worse and worse. Even though I moved out on my own with my children because I was a young mom and I had 3 sons, and I moved into my first apartment when I was 20 years old. And the environment that I went into was considered like Sedonia. And if you lived in Sedonia, like that was considered like a really good area. From there, I continued to try to move places that I felt was comfortable and that I felt like was good neighborhoods, you know, for me and my kids. But it started getting tough for me to move places that I could afford that were in the good neighborhoods. And so I could no longer allow myself or my kids to continue, you know, just living in the city. We've done that twice, where we tried to live in the city because it was affordable, and I was only there for a short period of time because of the schools were bad, you know, the environment, the neighborhood, the shootings, the killings. It was just bad. I mean, you couldn't sit on your step, you couldn't be comfortable, you didn't feel comfortable going to the store. You know, it just wasn't the same, and I just felt like I needed a change. So it was just best for me to move to another state. So in 2006, I moved to Pennsylvania, and I'm telling you, that was the best thing that I could have ever done for me and my children at that time. it was a struggle in the beginning. You know, the first couple of years was tough. The transition was hard for them because they did not want to leave the environment from where we came from. They wanted to stay there. Their friends were there. You know, despite how things were, they still grew up with these particular friends that they wanted to still be with. And so it was tough. But today, 10 years later, I can say, and they can say that it was one of the best moves that we've ever made in our lives. And seeing how Baltimore is now, I know I made the best, the best choice for us. I would love to see, my prayer is that I see Baltimore healed, because Baltimore is hurting right now. The people of Baltimore is hurting, which creates the crime, um, the chaos, everything that's going on in the city is because Baltimore is hurting. The people are hurting. And so my prayer is to see the people of Baltimore healed, to see them out of poverty, to see them have better healed, because I know that they are hurting, which creates all of the crime and the chaos, the shootings, the killings, the break-ins, like everything that's going on in Baltimore. It stems from people really being hurt and not knowing how to channel that anger. And so what we see is what we are getting from a lot of people who are just lost and who don't have any direction. So my hope and my prayer is that Baltimore Hill, the people of Baltimore Hill, and people see um, something better for people, and be able to allow them opportunities to have better housing, better neighborhoods, better communities, better education, better school systems, to see families come back together like they used to.